Hello everyone, welcome to this tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to be demonstrating how to download and install Conda on your Ubuntu WSL system. You might want to perform some bioinformatics data science tasks using Plink or using BCF tools or VCF tools or AutoFinder or any of those tools. Conda is a very great way to help you install some of those tools without having to sweat it out. Okay, so I'm just going to demonstrate how to install Conda, and then we see how to install AutoFinder using Conda. Okay, so let's get to it. First, we want to install the Miniconda application, or we want to install Miniconda on our PC, and we are going to be using this scripts which we are getting from the Anaconda website. So Miniconda basically is a minified form or a minimized form of Anaconda without all of the other softwares you usually have with Anaconda. So this Miniconda latest Linux script, it's actually going to help us download Miniconda. This is specifically for Ubuntu. So if you want to do this on a Mac, you need to get that for a Mac. Okay, so I'm going to press enter over here. Okay, and so that's going to connect to the Miniconda server and then download the script. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is to verify our installer. Okay, now this is not a compulsory step, but just a good thing to do to make sure that the script you are trying to install is authentic. Okay, so I'm going to press enter. Okay, it returns a hash for the script, and it tells us that this particular script has not been modified, or it has not been intercepted and changed, or the content has not been modified, and so we are good to go. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is to type bash. Okay, and then the Miniconda file we just downloaded. So if you look on your current directory where you are, wherever your working directory is, you are going to find this Miniconda script right on your current directory. So what you need to do is to use bash, and then you enter the script name, press enter. Okay, and then it tells me welcome to Miniconda. In order to continue your installation, please press enter to continue. Okay, so I press enter. It's going to read out this agreement to me. Okay, so I'm just going to go through, press enter till I get to the end of the agreement, and then once I am there, I'm going to just type yes to accept the agreement. Okay, so we are there now. So I'm just going to type yes. Okay, and then it's asking me where I want to actually install Miniconda, and this is going to be installed to my home location. Okay, so here I just type enter. Okay, to accept the default path, and the installation is going to begin. The script is going to extract Miniconda and do all of the background work that has to be done for Miniconda to be installed to your Ubuntu system. So it tells me that this process is done. Do I want to run this every time, or do I want to set this every time? And I just accept the default, and then it tells me thanks for installing Miniconda. Okay, so now let's try the Conda init. The Conda init command. Okay, if that actually works, then it means that we were successful at installing Conda. Before we try the Conda init command, this is one mistake we actually find, that after you install Conda, you actually need to activate Conda. Okay, so you can activate Conda in two ways. First is to just restart your terminal. Okay, so you can shut down your terminal and then turn it on again. Okay, that's one way to activate Conda. Okay, so upon restart, it's going to detect that there is a change in your terminal, and then it's going to activate that change, or go through the process of activating that change. Okay, the next way, or the other way to actually go about activating Conda, is to use this command I am typing on the screen. So we use the source command, okay, which is going to look for the source file for Conda, and then we say /bin is going to look for the binary files, and then /activate. Okay, so once you do that, we press enter. Okay, and then it actually activates Conda, because you see that right now I do have a base environment over here. So once you type this, it's going to go ahead and activate Conda. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is to type Conda init. Okay, so we want to initialize Conda. Okay, and then Conda is initialized, and once we are done with that, we want to close our terminal and open it up to verify the installation. So I'm just going to go ahead and close my terminal, and then I'm going to open up terminal again. Okay, and then you can see that we do have the base environment over here. Okay, that's the base environment for Conda. I can go ahead and increase the font size. Okay, and once that is done, we are in good shape. And to confirm that our installation actually happened, we can just type conda dash dash version, okay, like this, and we see conda 25.1.1. okay, so it means that Conda was successfully installed. Okay, if you've successfully gotten to this point, that's great, that's awesome. The next thing we want to do is to create an environment. So what is an environment? Think about an environment as a container. Okay, you want to keep things separate. Okay, you don't want to have all of your software dependencies for your data science or your bioinformatics stacks all in your base environments, because sometimes you might have different versions of softwares that might conflict or that might have different dependencies, and because of this dependency conflict, you might have some errors which you do not expect. Okay, and so sometimes you just want to have a containerized section of your workspace, more like, okay, so that you can actually isolate stuff you are doing. So you can isolate your software installation from each other, and then just keep them isolated, so that if you are trying to install a new software and it has a different dependency, and maybe you still want to keep the old software or the older version of that same software for specific users, then you can isolate those using different environments. Okay, so I'm going to show you first how to create an environment, and then we create an environment for AutoFinder. Okay, so usually to create an environment using Conda, we use Conda create -n. -n usually is the -new flag. Okay, and here you might want to create an environment called maybe genetics env. Okay, so if you are doing genetics analysis or stuff like that, or genomics analysis, you might want to have one particular environment for all of your genomics work or your genetics work. Okay, so here I'm calling it genomics env. Okay, and I press enter. And once you create the environment, it's going to ask you that this is going to be the home for your new location. Do you want to proceed? And by default, that is yes. We press yes. Okay, and then that environment is created. However, when we create the environment, we do not automatically switch over to that environment. We need to manually switch over to the environment. So you can see that we are still in our base environment, although we do have a new environment called Genomics Env. Okay, so here we can go ahead and activate the environment using Conda activate Genomics Env. So genomics-env. Okay, so that activates the new environment called genomics env for us. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is, if you do not want to use that environment or you want to switch over to another environment, you can use conda deactivate. Okay, to deactivate the previous environment, and then you see that the genomics env is deactivated, and then we are back to the base environment. Okay, so using the same strategy, we are going to create a new environment called Auto Finder. So remember that the software Auto Finder is different from the environment, and that's why I started with the first part of creating an environment called Genomics Env to make you know that this is actually different, but we are just calling it Auto Finder, okay, to help us, okay. So here I'm going to create an environment called Auto Finder. So it goes ahead to create the process. I hit yes to enter, and then I can say Conda activates, okay, Auto Finder, okay, and then it goes ahead to activate Auto Finder. Now once we've activated Auto Finder and we are within that container or within that isolated environment, what we want to do is to install the software called Auto Finder, okay. So we are installing the software called Auto Finder within the environment called Auto Finder. So we say conda install -c. So the -c flag represents channel, okay. So it's more like saying that conda install Auto Finder using the bioconda channel, okay. So bioconda Auto Finder, and then we want to specify the version we want to use, okay. So if you want to in the future maybe maintain the version 2.5.5 but have a different version of Auto Finder in a different environment, you could just use conda create Auto Finder, maybe version 3, maybe v3, activate that environment, and then specify the version of Auto Finder you actually want to install, okay. So press enter, and then it goes ahead, okay, performs the activation, and then we go ahead and then we run through the installation. So what you see on your screen right now is actually Auto Finder installing, but it is not only Auto Finder, it's also installing all of the dependencies for Auto Finder, okay, because softwares usually are built on other softwares, okay. So you can see SciPy, you can see GIMP, you can see Perl, okay, you can see open MPI, pip, and so on and so forth, okay. So once this is done, we should be good to go. Okay, so our Auto Finder is done running. We are done executing the command successfully, and so we can just go ahead and begin to use Auto Finder. So let's try to run some commands with Auto Finder to see if that actually worked. Okay, so let's try autofinder -help. Okay, so you can see that the autofinder -h command actually worked. So it gives us the help menu for autofinder, and that's quite a lot. Okay, so these are some of the things you can use autofinder for, some of the flags you can use autofinder with. So basically this tutorial is just to show you how to install Conda and use Conda to install autofinder within your Linux PC or your Ubuntu system. Okay, thank you everyone for watching. See you in the next.